Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. But who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer, which means I go to trial. I don't just hold your hand and write a passport to prison. What I do is I try cases. I'm board-certified in the area of criminal defense. That makes me an expert in criminal law and criminal trial law. Anyway, today we are reacting to kind of a week's kind of update on Alex Murdaugh. He is the lawyer out of South Carolina who's accused of killing his wife, among 100 other things. But before we get to this whole kind of cool update, this is brought to you by, say it with me, eSign.com. eSign.com. eSign.com is an effective way to remotely sign documents. You get 3 free signatures a month. Download the app. So let's say you're Alex Murdaugh and you are in prison and you need to sign a document quick. Well, you email it to the prison guard, and basically any assets that you have, you're going to turn over to your lawyer because you're probably cooked. So you just e-sign that over and you're done. You can do it in any kind of document, though, really. You can do like a power of attorney. Let's say you have relatives overseas or relatives, across the country. You can get all kinds of work done effectively with eSign.com. That's eSign.com. Click the link below. So one of the things that happened this week in the Alex Murdaugh, then we're in like day 14 or whatever we are, heading into the 3rd week, and the prosecution is expected to rest next week. But one of the things that happened was the defense has asked for a mistrial. So the controversy arose. Blanca Simpson, who was the housekeeper, was going to be testifying, and the state was going to ask her some questions about Margaret, the wife, about her concern about financials. Now, the only way you get that information in is if you talk about something that Margaret would have said. So anything Margaret would say is what? Say it with me. Hearsay. Okay. So, and hearsay is generally not admissible unless it falls within one of the other exceptions. Now, this is kind of a big deal because this goes right along with the state's case of motive. And so around this time, Alex Murdaugh had been sued for $30 million. And Blanca Simpson, the question was asked, was Margaret concerned about finances? And the defense objected, the jury was cleared out, and then they had discussion off the record, or on the record, but outside the presence of the jury. Sometimes when things happen like this in court, it's, the judge doesn't really know where this is going, and so it's like, okay, let's clear the court out, or clear the courtroom out, get the jury out of there so they don't hear what we're talking about in the short term, so I can rule on this objection. So what they then did is they did what they call a proffer. Both sides got a chance to question Ms. Simpson, so the judge could really ferret out whether this is hearsay or whether it's an exception to the hearsay rule or whatever. So Murdaugh's lawyer objected, and the reason he says, and then he asked for a mistrial because he said even if my objection is sustained, the jury can't unring this bell. In other words, you can't not hear what you just heard and disregard. Because, judges do that all the time. They say, we'd like to, members of the jury, you are hereby instructed to disregard that last mark about the pink elephant. What are you thinking about right now? I told you not to think about the pink, but stop thinking about the pink. Are you thinking about a pink elephant right now? I told you to quit. That's exactly why. So, even if the judge sustains the objection, you can't unring the bell, basically. You can't not think about it. But the judge said, well, we've heard a lot of testimony about how harmonious this household was. So this doesn't necessarily go to the truth of the matter asserted. It goes to the motive for the killing, basically. And it goes to combat the defense questions, where the defense has basically tried to get in that it is in this warm, loving, happy family. And Margaret, when she was talking to Miss Blanca Simpson, the housekeeper, was in tears. So, whether it's fair game or not, this is definitely an issue for appeal. But the judge ruled that it does come in because, and here's the thing, the character evidence generally doesn't come in, the defense has been clamoring about all the, because there's been a lot of evidence of prior bad acts of Mr. Murdaugh, right? Because you've got the one gal that died that he ripped her off and didn't pay her sons. You've got him ripping off his own law partners. You've got him underwater with the bank, and the bank has testified, about his financial condition. So they're saying this is just character evidence, pure and simple. Well, you cannot bring in character evidence of the accused. The state cannot do that. But they can bring in evidence of motive. And his financial condition is really what they're hanging their hat on. So what were the pivotal things that happened this week? So there was a CEO, Jan Malinowski, testified about Mr. Murdaugh's desperate financial condition. That is totally the state's theory of the case, that he was trying to distract. This is a way, to. It's sort of disjointed in a way, because how does killing your fucking wife help you? One of the things that you say, honestly, and this goes for all you guys out there, never commit a felony to avoid a misdemeanor. You don't commit a murder where you could go to prison for life when all you're charged with is a bunch of financial shit. This Jan Malinowski, she testified that he owed the bank $4.2 million. His bank account was overdrawn by $347,000. He had $1 million line of credit that was maxed out. So you've got a financial picture that is in absolute ruins. But then you've got, and I'll get to this in a minute, but you've got so many other crimes that we're talking about. You've got Tony Satterfield. Tony Satterfield, he was one of the sons. Satterfield testified that his mother, Gloria Satterfield, who died in 2018 after falling at the Murdaugh property. So Murdaugh promised he could get them $100,000 for each of the grieving boys, but they didn't receive a dollar. Went to orchestrate a scheme with fellow attorney Corey Fleming to ultimately coerce his their insurance companies, to get his insurance company to pay roughly $4.3, and that's supposed to go to the Fleming family. And guess what? How much do they see that? Not a fucking dollar. But then you also had this boat accident. I mean, you've got these constant, things that are happening, and it involves either deaths or serious injury to others. Before Tony Satterfield went to testify, the defense filed a motion to keep him from testifying about this stuff. And the reason being is that it's character evidence, pure and simple. But the state, and so this is what the judge was saying, the state contends a perfect storm of criminal exposure, a storm that included the 2019 beach boat crash, financial liability, the Satterfield fraud becoming public, and the missing legal fees from the Wilson law firm was related to Murdaugh's alleged motive for murder. Murdaugh's defense has strongly argued against him. And they're basically saying that there's no rational way that he would be able to butcher his wife, and with his father dying, and this somehow helps. I struggle with this a little bit too, because Judge Clifton said, I find this testimony is consistent with the state's theory that the defendant was in a frantic state leading up to the murders. But let's look at this. So how does killing your wife help you? It really doesn't. But if she's going to leave, or if you get in an argument and now you just fucking lose it. But there was also testimony today this week that I think he changed his clothes like 3 times. And we know that her phone was found elsewhere. His phone is basically dead for a period of time. We know that his whereabouts and what he was doing doesn't match his statement to the police. We just had a case similar to this in Ramsey County, Minnesota, where there was a guy who told his wife to call 911. She's on the phone with 911 saying somebody's breaking into the house. He shoots his wife in the back. He says he was struggling with the firearm, and he gets injured, and then the person leaves. There's really no footprints. There's no evidence. There's a little bit of a door jam break, but that's it. And so the jury came back right away, and in that case, the motive was he had been lying to the bank, and he had been not making his mortgage payments, and they were supposed to be out the next day. Now, if someone's going to really cover up a situation with a murder, I don't know. I'm wrapping my head around this. So now, according to the Greenville News, Bamberg, who is an attorney in his law firm, recalls a face-to-face confrontation with Murdaugh. Now, keep in mind, he's fourth generation in this law firm. In other words, this is his family's law firm. It's been his legacy. And so they're asking him what's going on, blah, 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 what's with all these financial, I'm addicted to pills, I'm addicted to opioids, What? You're addicted to opioids? He's got an excuse for everything. So there's another witness named Wilson who testified about how shocked the family was and everything. And afterwards, Murdaugh started talking about getting money to replace the money that he had stolen from the law firm. Basically, what Murdaugh was doing is running a Ponzi scheme. And what a Ponzi scheme is, okay, I steal from so-and-so, right? And I use that money for my own purpose, or I use most of it. And then in order to keep my scheme going, I got to pay that person back so they don't turn me into the cops. So I find another victim. And so I add some of that money to my money, and then or the money that's in my hand, and then I pay that person off. They're fine. They don't even know anything happened. So now I'm in the whole double, right? So I take money from two more people, and I pay this guy back, and then I'm still, I'm spending, recklessly, and I think it's going to go fine. I'll just get enough, and I'll pay everybody back. But it never works out that way. And that's what Murdaugh was doing with his law firm. He was in Dutch in so many areas. The problem that you have is if you don't have any of these circumstances, and this is why the theory of the case is so important, without any context, these murders kind of don't make sense, right? You have Alex Murdaugh on a recording of a very brief Snapchat video where you can hear him saying something about he's got a bird or something about the dog. And so it doesn't seem like there's any fighting going on, if that is his voice. I mean, he says he was gone at that time, so that doesn't help. But you don't have any, it doesn't make sense for him to be murderous. And it doesn't sound like he had been violent with anybody prior to this date. However, you've got a lot of recurring theft, deceit, desperation, and that's really the theory of the case, or the theme of the case for the prosecution, is that he was just so gone that he killed his wife. And I've heard somebody say that he killed his wife or was about to kill his wife or something like that, and his son tried to step in and then killed his son too. Or he had to kill his son because his son saw what happened, something like that, which would make sense. But I don't care who you are, how much trouble you are in. It's just that's never a solution unless it's self-defense. Somebody's coming into your home or attacking your family or that kind of thing. Then using lethal force is absolutely justified, absolutely, in your home. But killing somebody just because you're behind the eight ball in so many other areas, and maybe she's threatening to leave him, maybe she's threatening to expose him, who knows? But we know from the housekeeper that she was distraught by the financial condition. $30 million. We don't have that kind of money, you know? And then I don't know how much she knew about all the other stuff, but wives are often kept in the dark on these kinds of things. And they can push things, you know, in a direction that maybe he didn't like. It could be just as simple as that. And he just snapped because he's got so many other things. So then you got a childhood friend, Wilson, who testified for the state. And he talks about that the two of them had worked together, that he always seemed like he had a lot of money and he spent a lot of money, and they worked together on a products liability suit. He stole $792,000. Just add that to the list. So Alex Murdaugh, you know, the real crux of this and the backdrop of this is he's got 19 indictments, 99 charges. He's looking at realistically, ostensibly, you know, a life sentence, you know, for all these, because it's just so many and it's so pervasive. Although I would think that if you're a good lawyer, you could pare it down, but it seems that the conduct is so pervasive, so sophisticated, such a breach of trust that a prosecutor is probably not going to be that inclined, especially on these financial crimes, because the financial crimes, to be honest with you, are some of the easiest to prove. Because why? Because they're document intensive. So this has just been our little weekend wrap up of Alex Murdaugh's case. Even if he beats this murder case, he's still looking at essentially a life sentence on all the other things that he's looking at. For sure, not less than 10 years. So this is Bruce Rivers, Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate the support. I love all the comments. Make sure you sign up for Patreon. Sign up for connect with us on any platform like Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God.